Lynn Medic, Amanda, Medic, Medek.
And your middle name is Lynn, Lynn?
Lynn, yes.
Okay. Ms. Pearson, you may proceed.
Ms. Medic, I'm going to ask you to pull the microphone up to you to the best you can. The chair moves and the microphone moves too,
Okay.
to make sure that we can hear you over the microphone. Ms. Medic, what do you do for a living?
I work at Zillow Group for the Strategic Partnership Team.
And did you have a sister named Michaela Medic?
I have a sister named Michaela Medic.
If I could have a 4711, please, an already admitted photograph. Is this a picture of Michaela?
That's a photo of Michaela.
You can take that down. How old are you, and how old was Michaela in relation to you?
So I'm currently 30, and my little sister was 4 years younger than I am.
So how old was she when she died?
So she had just turned 23, and I had just turned 26, 27.
And I'm still going to ask you, you're very soft-spoken. If you can pull the microphone up to you a little more.
This is a heavy chair.
It is a heavy chair. Did you grow up with Michaela?
Yes, we were very close.
Who were the members in your family when you were growing up?
So we have a very large family, and my grandparents live about 15 minutes away, and in my immediate family it was basically my little sister, my mother, my father, and I.
Did you grow up in Colorado?
We did. We grew up in Aurora.
Were you close to your sister growing up?
You could say that. I was the boss. I'm the big sister. Because Steve's always somebody to play with. We were outside kids. We grew up next to a large field, so we were always catching gross things and, riding our bikes. So yeah, you could say we were close.
How would you describe Michaela when she was a child?
Your Honor, I object under 403 and 401 in due process.
Sustained.
What kind of a personality did Michaela have?
As a kid growing up, she was always very outgoing, always had a ton of friends, very level-headed, very grounded, very sweet girl. We grew up in church twice on Sunday. Just very giving, very forgiving, just very even-tempered. It's kind of like she knew she had a secret, She knew that the day would continue day by day and no anxiety was needed. Life would just go on. So I'd say she's a gentle, sweet, loving kid.
What was her relationship like with your mother?
We're all very, very close. So I think that this has brought us closer. They're exactly the same person, very calm, very easygoing, while, I'm the opposite. I'm always going forward and moving and anxious, and she's just very calm and, grounding, easygoing. We're all very close. My grandmother, she was really close with my grandmother. I mean, she lived 15 minutes away, so we were always over there. We're just a very tight-knit clan.
When you were a teenager, because you were 4 years older, did you try to teach her to drive?
Yes, which was an experience. I think she had just turned 15. I think sorry. It's a little nervous.
That's okay.
Yes, I tried to teach her how to drive. She got in the car and asked me which one was the brake, which one was the gas. And I get out of the car like, this is not okay. So, I tried to teach her how to drive. I mean, she was my little sister. She's my kid sister.
What kind of things did she do with your mother?
Went to movies, we all went to movies and, normal family things.
What was her relationship like with your dad?
Again, we're all very close. my dad would go and visit her. She worked at the university hospital at a restaurant there while she was going to college, and he'd go and visit her. We'd go out to dinner all the time. I want to say we went out to dinner at least once a week. Like, we all saw each other at least once a week.
Did Michaela still live at home with your parents or in her own apartment?
She had moved to her own apartment. She was living with her best friend, and it was pretty close to where the theater was. So she had recently moved out. She was starting to become a college kid.
When was the last time that you talked to Michaela?
It was a few days before. We were talking about what we were going to do for my grandmother's birthday, which was on that date, but we were discussing what we were going to do on the weekend.
Was your grandmother's birthday on July 20th?
Yeah, my grandmother's birthday is on July 20th.
Do you still celebrate her birthday on July 20th?
Your Honor, objection 401, 403, due process.
Overruled.
I think that celebrations are dulled and limited, but we definitely are still a very close family, and we still get together and celebrate each other's lives.
How did you learn about the shooting?
I was selfish, and I was in bed at 5 in the morning, and my dad is a big talker, so he knows I'm up that early in the morning, so he had called me, and I didn't answer because I had to do this teacher training thing, and then I was waiting for a voicemail, and it must have been a very long voicemail because it seems like it was forever till it gave the ring, and I listened to the voicemail, and it said my dad was trying to be strong.
Hold on. There's an objection as to hearsay. What's the response?
Your Honor, it goes to her finding out about what happened.
Okay. So this goes to the effect on the listener.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, overruled based on my prior rulings and based on the record made just now. Go ahead.
So I listened to the voicemail, and my dad said that Michaela had been shot, and I leapt out of bed, and I just kept doing this because I couldn't process anything, so I was very anxious, and my mind was racing, and I grabbed whatever I could in my closet. I threw flip-flops on and got in my car, and I raced down to Gateway High School. I went the wrong way down the street, and I'm just thinking, it's okay, I'm gonna get there, it will be fine, I just need to figure it out. So I got to Gateway High School, and my parents were there, and a ton of my sister's friends were there, and I just started asking questions, what's going on, who have you spoke to? We got a list of all the hospitals. My mother had previously been calling these hospitals since 1 in the morning. So I recalled all of these hospitals, and we knew that there was a bunch of Jane Does or people that hadn't been identified yet. So I dropped my parents off, and I just went to everywhere. Children's Hospital, University, I went to Swedish, I went to hospitals that they weren't admitting people to. I went to Presbyterian Denver Health. I thought maybe she'd, been shocked and she couldn't, she wouldn't be able to describe who she is, and so I just went everywhere, and I kept getting called back to Gateway High School to be interviewed by the police and then be interviewed by victims advocates, and then I'd go back to University Hospital because they would call me and tell me there's a new Jane Doe, and I just kept repeating her name, Micayle, Medek.
Did you ultimately learn that your sister had been shot and killed?
I went back to Gateway High School. I was called in by an officer, and he showed me a photo on his phone of my little sister's driver's license and asked me to identify the photo, and they wouldn't tell me anything. All I did was identify the photo, And we got called into Gateway High School into a large room, and just happened to be that there were, just like 12 sets of people just in these chairs, and we went into a large room.
Your Honor, I would object at this point for a 3 due process.
Overruled. Ask your next question, please.
When you were at Gateway High School, did you learn what had happened?
No.
Did you go back to your home?
Yes. We went back to my parents' house, and there was over 150 people at my parents' house. Front yard, backyard, in the house, everywhere. Just my sister's friends, our family, our community, people in the church.
Is that where you learned, were you at home when that you learned what happened?
We got a call, and 2 black cars came down the end of the street. We were in the backyard, just the family, just the immediate family. And all I remember is my knees buckling and slamming into the concrete floor, and that I have a hard time remembering what happened after that.
I'm going to show you some photographs. Your Honor, may I approach with People's Exhibits 4710, 4712, and 4713?
You may.
Do you recognize these photographs?
I do.
Who are they photographs of?
They're photographs of my family and my little sister.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admittance of People's Exhibits 4710, 4712, and 4713.
Any objection?
Nothing additional, Your Honor.
All right, based on my prior rulings, P-TR-4710, 4712, and 4713 are admitted and may be published.
Could I have 4712, please? Can you tell us about this picture when it was taken?
Yeah, this was March 2012. It was my dad's birthday party at the Chop House
And
downtown.
that's your dad and
that's
you and Michaela?
my dad and my sister and I, yeah.
Could I have 4713, please?
That was my baby sister in California. I think sometime the summer of 2011.
Could I have 4710, please?
That's Thanksgiving, 2011. My sister framed this photo for me and gave it to me on Christmas.
Was that a typical kind of thing for her to
No.
do?
She was so loving, but not very sentimental. So it was very surprising that she had printed and framed this photo in a frame that said "Sisters Always." She was really funny with gifts. They were very, she was a college kid, so you'd get a Christmas card with an IOU in it for like, I owe you dinner, or like things that, to spend time with you, I owe you a movie, but it was never like, I owe you an iPod or something, like it was always like, I owe you dinner.
And did she, in fact, then take you to dinner at some point?
I don't think I got the dinner this time. I got the photo.
What has the impact been on the life of your parents since this occurred?
You never expect to lose your kid before you go, They've definitely bonded together. You either separate or you bond together. They're very close now. They're both on antidepressants. just depressed, a lot of anger, a lot of grief to work through, and they're working through it together. It's a hard subject to bring up. I think your parents try and be supportive and strong for you, so I think that they're showing a lot of strength.
And for you, what's been the impact for you?
I mean, I'm kind of an emotional wreck here. It's been a hard 3 years. I don't remember time periods of my life. Like, I don't remember, like, periods after it happened. I was self-medicating. Like, it's not easy. Like, I lost my little sister. I don't have, these monumental occasions. I don't have, like, my sister's not going to be there. I think it's really hard to try and change the dynamic of your life in this whole new paradigm of being an only child, and it's really hard.
You said that you used to go to a lot of movies. Do you still go to movies?
Absolutely not. I can't walk into a movie theater. There's absolutely not.
What was the best characteristic of Michaela? What did you love best about her?
Loving, just filled with love. Loved kids, loved people. If you needed a friend, she was a great person to sit down with you. If you needed anybody, my sister would be there. Loving, so loving, kind, sweet, innocent. She was a kid. She was just learning, like she was just about to be a college kid. She was young. She never fell in love. She never, got to have a family. She never she had big trips, big plans. She never got to do any of that.
Honor objection 403 due process.
Sustained. Ask your next question, please.
What do you miss most?
Selfishly, I miss my sister. I miss, like having somebody to talk to, having somebody to call. I miss my grounding force. She always understood everything. Like you have a special bond when you grow up with somebody.
Thank you.
Is there any cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for Ms. Medic. May Ms. Medic be released from her subpoena? Any objection?
Absolutely
All
not.
right, thank you, Ms. Medic. Call your next witness, please, Mr. Brockler.
Your Honor, the people call Teresa Hoover.
Come around this way, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God.
Please be seated. Ms. Hoover, could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Mary Teresa Hoover, MaryTheresahoover.
Mr. Brockler, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. With the court's permission, I'd like to publish 4671, which has already been admitted.
You may.
Can you tell us who's in this picture?
That's my son AJ, with the love of his life, La Samoa.
Thank you, ma'am. Em, I want to ask you about AJ in terms of the impact that his loss had on you and others, but also so that we get to know AJ a little bit better, okay?
Okay.
First off, when was AJ born?
September 20th, 1993.
How old was he when he was murdered?
18.
That name AJ, where'd that come from?
Jonathan is his middle name. Alexander is his first. His father and I liked racing, and AJ Foyt was big, so Alexander Jonathan AJ, last name Boyk, rhymes with Foyt.
Sort of.
A.J. Boyk.
Did he ever go by Alexander or Jonathan?
No, always A.J. Or Age.
You talked about his father.
Yes.
When did his father leave the picture?
He was just turned 2.5, I believe.
Did you end up raising AJ by yourself?
A.J. and his brother.
Judge, can we approach, please?
Yes. All right, Mr. Brockler, you may proceed.
Ma'am, I think the last answer you gave was related to an answer to the question I asked if you raised AJ by yourself, and you had said AJ and his brother. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Tell us about your other son in terms of age, name.
His name is William Jacob Boyk, and he is 4 years older than A.J.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm handing you what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit 4673. Please take a look at that and tell us if you recognize who's in that picture.
I do.
Tell us.
That's A.J. and his brother, Will. Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday of what year, ma'am?
I believe it was 2012.
So a few months before this happened.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I'm going to move to admit People's Exhibit, I believe it's 4673, into evidence.
Any objection?
No, sir.
All right, without objection, P-TR-4673 is admitted and may be published.
Ma'am.
Pretty cute.
Is that them?
Yeah.
And is that his brother on the right?
Yes. A.J.'s on the left with his earbuds.
And how far apart were they in age, ma'am?
4 years.
Thank you. Tell us, if you would, prior to his murder, what was his relationship with his brother?
They had each other. A.J. would go visit him up in college every once in a while. They always played tricks on me, and they were pretty tight. Best friends. That's all they had was each other, so they took care of each other.
You had said that your older son was away at college when this happened. Where was he going to school?
Fort Collins.
Who was in the home with you at the time that this happened? Who lived with
My dog.
you? And AJ?
Yes, but when it happened, it was me and my dog.
Where did you live when this happened?
In a townhouse right by Gateway, about half a mile from Gateway.
When you say Gateway, do you mean Gateway
High school, yes.
How long had you lived there?
At that time, it had been about 12 or 13 years, I believe.
Is that the home that the boys grew up in?
Yes.
For us to better understand AJ, tell us about who he was leading up to this event. Describe his personality to us.
He was funny.
How so?
He was always, he made me laugh on a regular basis every day. For example, I'd wake him up in the morning and tell him he'd have to get up, and he'd make some wisecrack like, your face needs to get up, or, that whole "your face" phrase that goes around. He was big on that, and he bounced into rooms. He was caring about other people. He skateboarded. He played baseball. He loved ceramics. He loved music. He loved La Samoa. Everything was good for him and to him, and he took that and gave it to everybody else. You didn't see him sad and depressed a lot. He was a very happy child.
Did that happiness just stay within the confines of the home?
No, he made friends everywhere he went.
That Gateway High School you live next to, the one that we've heard about, where a lot of people went after this murder. Is that where he went to high school?
Yeah, him and his brother both graduated from there.
When did AJ graduate in relation to this crime?
He graduated in May 2012.
2 months before this?
Yes.
You went through a bunch of things that were passions of AJ's, and I want to talk to you about a little bit of those, okay?
Okay.
First thing you talked about was skateboarding.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
He skateboarded all the time. He loved to skateboard. He liked to help other kids in the neighborhood actually skateboard. There was a kid in the neighborhood that he didn't think was being treated nice by his family. He was worried about him. And he decided, so this boy didn't have to stay inside and be sad and scared of his father or whatever was going on, he decided to give him one of his skateboards so that he could go skating with AJ. So he would take AJ, or AJ would take him to the skate park or skate around the neighborhood, whatever. And he was probably 4 years younger than him. But that's how AJ was. He took kids under his wing and helped him feel like everything was going to be okay, that he had your back.
There's a shirt he's wearing in that picture that we know to have been taken in the moments before his death.
Mm-hmm.
And it says Hurley on
Yes.
it. Tell us about that.
That's the shirt he was wearing when he was killed.
And what's Hurley in relation to skating?
It is a skate company.
There was something else you talked about too. You mentioned he played baseball.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
He played baseball as catcher from the time they would pitch to the kids, so about 4 or 5 years old. And he always played catcher. His first baseball coach gave him his catcher's mitt from when he was a child because he knew that AJ was going to stick with it. And instead of giving it to his own son, he gave it to AJ, which touched me and touched AJ too.
Did AJ dream of being a major league player?
He did. Every boy does, but he actually thought he was going to do it, and I didn't want to step on his dream, but I kind of had to throw him a little bit into reality. I feel kind of bad about it, but I told him he could always try, but don't count on making the major leagues alone with just that to fall back on. You got to have something else, so he decided to go into art.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Here's a skateboarder
Mm-hmm.
who's been playing baseball since he was 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
But was he musical?
Very.
Tell us about that too.
He played the viola. He started when he was in 6th grade. He came home and said he wanted to play the viola, and my mom and I looked at each other and said, all right, thinking, this would be a passing phase, but he stuck with it for all through high school. Ended up first chair.
At the high school orchestra?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that yes?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. It's just for this lady.
Yeah.
Did he have plans to continue to play the viola in some capacity had he lived
I
past the
think
20?
he would have. He had to...
I'm sorry, ma'am. Object under 403 and lock it.
Is it consistent with my earlier ruling, Mr. Bruckler?
I believe it is based on conversations they had, Judge.
Based on my earlier ruling and given what was just said, I'll allow it.
Man, let me focus you on this.
Okay.
Did he talk to you about how he wanted to play the viola? Is it viola or viola?
Viola.
Viola. After high school.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
He had discovered a band that had the viola, I always want to say viola too, the viola and the cello in it, and it was actually a rock band, and he was pretty excited to have me listen to it because he thought he could pull that off. So I told him to try it. It didn't sound as good as I think he wanted it to, but he knew that it was possible, so.
We're going to come back to this other person, but did his involvement in the orchestra ultimately lead him to his fiancée?
Yes.
Tell us about that, too.
AJ met La Samoa when, in school. They went to school together, of course, so they had met each other, I think, in passing, but they were both she was in band. I believe she played the clarinet, and I think she played the cello at one point, too. I don't recall for sure. But they had gone to South Dakota on a band trip, and that's when they decided that they liked each other, and then they came back, and that's how I met her.
We'll get back to La Samoa in a moment, but this viola-playing, skateboarding catcher, something happens in his sophomore year that changes his focus as to what his true passion is. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell us.
He discovered ceramics and was very good at it, and brought home these beautiful pots, and my house is full of them now, but he decided that he would like to turn that into a teaching career and eventually have a studio of his own.
Does he end up pursuing ceramics as more than just this expressed thought, I'd like to do this?
Yes.
How?
He applied to the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design.
Is this a big deal for him?
Huge.
How so?
He was so excited when he got to apply there, and then he turned in his notebook, or whatever you want to call it, full of his work, his photos and everything, and he turned that in, and they called and asked if he was interested in going to the school, and he of course said yes. So we did an over-the-phone interview, and then they called back and said, we'd like to offer you scholarships and all that good stuff. So
How did he react to that?
he about jumped out of his skin. He was so excited because he loved it, and he knew he was going to be able to teach kids the art of ceramics.
Is that what he talked with you about?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, was AJ different before La Samoa than after he met La Samoa?
Yes, very. Well, not very, I shouldn't say that, but he wasn't as focused as he was after he met La Samoa.
Talk to us about the difference that you saw in your boy after he met the love of his life.
Well, before he was, I don't know if I should say flighty, but kind of scattered. He was so busy having fun with everything that he didn't really focus on the important things like his schooling, and he knew he was going to get a C, that was okay. But when La Samoa came around, she kind of laid the hammer down on him and told him, if you're going to be with me, you're going to be a graduate, basically. And she helped him graduate, basically.
Now, he was dating an older woman then?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
How much older?
A whole year, year and a half.
So you had said they met in school when he was a junior and she was a senior?
Yes,
When they started dating, did they keep that going even after she left high school?
yes.
Where did she go?
She went up to CU Boulder
And how often would you see La Samoa come down to see your son?
every Friday night.
You talked about her having an impact on him. Did he seem different to you in terms of his outlook on life, his happiness, his...
Yes, definitely. He saw a future. He knew she was his future, and he had told me that too.
Did he talk to you about marrying her?
Yes.
Did you have some concerns about the age?
Well, I told him that I loved her as much as she did, or as much as he did, but to please refrain from having children until he got out of college.
Good mother.
To put it nicely.
He You talked about him making friends easily.
Yes.
Is that true throughout high school?
All of his life, he made friends all the time, easily, wherever he went.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1083. It's a disc that purports to be 2 minutes and 12 seconds long. Have you seen that before?
I have.
Where have you seen it?
I saw it this morning, and I helped create it.
Do me a favor and tell us, without going into the detail of every single picture, what is on that disc?
AJ being AJ. Happy, free-spirited, loving, silly.
Does this disc contain fair and accurate, as best we can under the circumstances, representations of your son at the time leading up to his murder?
Yes.
Here, I'm going to move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1083 into evidence.
Any additional record?
Nothing additional.
All right, based on my previous rulings and records, P-DR-1083 is admitted and may be published.
Now, ma'am, what I want to do, though, before these folks get to see this, I want you to tell us in a little more detail what sort of things are we looking at here, because out of context, you don't really know what's going on.
You'll see AJ planking. You'll see AJ...
Oh, hang on. What's planking?
Well, young kids know what it is. I didn't know it until he showed me. It's where you're able to, like, make your body straight on a awkward source or surface. You know, where your body is... You'll see. But,
Sure.
yeah. I don't even know. I can't do it. That's all I know. So, you'll see him making a frowny face that looks like his face is rubber because we thought it was.
Now, hang on. Talk about that rubber face.
His skin was weird. He was able to stretch his neck out so it looked like he had a pencil there, or he could make a really upside down frown just by, and his cheeks were rubbery, and he says it's because he was so fat as a kid, but
Would he do that to amuse people?
yes.
Go on. What else are we going to see in there?
You'll see him with La
Samoa.
Samoa.
Yeah.
Yes. You'll see him with his friends doing cheerleading things through the school. He would be kind of the pep rally guy at the volleyball games. He would wear the girls' volleyball shorts and paint his face with that black face paint marker stuff and just kind of get the crowd riled, and he got in trouble for that a number of times actually because he disrupted the games. Just AJ being a ball of happiness is really the only way I can describe it, but...
Is it wrong to call him the class clown?
No, not at all, actually.
And did he like that kind of humorous attention?
He did.
There is an exchange that takes place on this disc, a video,
Mm-hmm.
where he's talking to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that?
La Samoa,
What's he saying?
that he loves her.
Anything else, ma'am, you remember before we play this thing to help set the stage?
It's hard to put it all into a few seconds. I had him for 18 years, and to know that I'm not going to have him be the father of one of my grandchildren or give me La Samoa as a daughter-in-law or be here to be an uncle to his brother's children. I can't. There's a hole.
I'll ask you more in just a moment, ma'am, but right
Okay.
now, publish that.
I love you too. I love you so much. I love you so much too. I love you so much. More.
You okay?
Yeah.
Forgive me for backing up and asking a bit, but was that Lord of the Dance they were doing? Or something in there where they were all up in the air?
Yes.
Doing their little, was that?
Yes.
Do you remember the last time that you saw your son alive?
I do.
When was it in relation to his murder?
It was on the 19th of July.
That day leading into the movie?
Yes.
Tell us about how you came to spend time with him.
Well, he had gone to mow his uncle's yard, so he came by my work to get some gas money to get there. He met my work people, and then after I got off work, I got home and he was there, and I knew he was going to the movie, so I asked him if I could take him out to dinner, and he said he didn't want to because he had to go watch La Samoa do her hula. Yes, you know, I'm not Hawaiian, so. So I said, okay, if you're not going to dinner, I'm going to Dairy Queen. And he said, well, I'm down, of course. So we went to Dairy Queen and took the dog and sat out in front of Dairy Queen and ate our ice cream, which we hadn't done since he was probably 3 years old. So that was a nice kind of memory to have, but...
Do you remember when you found out about the shooting?
Yeah.
How did you find out?
I was sleeping and my dog started barking. So I went and checked to see what she was barking at, and his friend was at the door and told me to turn on the TV. So I turned it on and couldn't find the channel changer, and it was chaos, and I was in my underwear in front of a child that wasn't mine, and he went and got his mom out of the truck and brought her, and to try to get me to focus, I guess. But so I got some sweats on, and I grabbed a picture off the wall, his graduation picture, and then she drove me to Gateway High School.
Something surreal about going there under those circumstances?
Yeah.
How long did it take you before you found out your boy was killed?
I didn't find out until about 16 and a half, 18 hours. I got there about 1:30 or 2 in the morning. so I waited at the school with my family.
Did Gateway High School, I mean, your son had just graduated, did they do something to demonstrate the impact his death had had on them?
Yes, they had
I would object to 403.
Overruled.
Go ahead, ma'am. What'd they do?
a event. Los Moa and some teachers and AJ's friends helped put it together where they each they did their part, put pictures together and had speeches, things like that. It was almost like a pep rally for AJ on the Monday following, or the Sunday following, I believe.
How many people came out?
Over 1,000, I would say.
Did you end up having services for your son?
Yes,
Where?
at Queen of Peace Catholic Church.
How many people turned out for that?
They estimated about 1,200 people.
Were these people that, without getting into all the specific details, people that spanned your son's life?
Yes. Baseball coaches, teachers from elementary school, family from out of state, in-state, neighborhood friends, school friends.
Because of their significance to him, was he buried with anything?
Yes.
Tell us what.
Object to 401 and 403.
Would counsel please approach for just a moment?
Ma'am, remember when we were talking about that art school that he'd gotten into?
Yes.
Was there an orientation that he was supposed to go to for that art school?
Yes.
When was it?
July 21st, 2012.
The next day.
Yep.
I only have a couple questions left for you, ma'am. First off, after AJ was murdered, were you left to live alone in that home?
Yes.
Impact of losing your boy. How did that impact where you lived?
I ended up selling my townhouse and moving.
The childhood home for the boys.
Yeah.
What impact have you seen AJ's death have on your remaining son?
He's dealing in his own way. He's quiet, reserved. He doesn't go to these things, for lack of a better word.
Talking about like
Yeah.
court appearance?
Anything related to it, he doesn't go to. He's grieving on his own and in private with me.
How has this impacted you?
I am now a single mother of one child. I've lost half of what I was put on this earth to do, is raise my children, and he was one of the two best things I ever did, and now my life is basically half of what it was.
Bless you. If there's one, this is going to sound ridiculous, if there's one thing that you miss most or that sticks out most in your mind about your youngest son's absence, what is it?
Hearing him bounce into the room and say, "Mama," or answering the phone and saying, "What up, Mama?" Knowing that he's not going to be down and depressed, because he was always so happy. He made me laugh every day.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Bruckler. Do you have any cross-examination, Ms. Brady?
No, sir.
All right, and the jury does not appear to have any questions for Ms. Hoover. Ms. Hoover, may she be released from her subpoena? Yes. Any objection? All right, Ms. Hoover, thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the jury, one of you needs a break, and so we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break, okay? Please keep in mind my admonishments during the break. All of them continue to apply. I also remind you that you may not be swayed by emotion. Your decisions in this sentencing hearing may not be the result of any irrational or arbitrary emotional response. Rather, each of your final sentencing verdicts must reflect your individual reasoned moral judgment. All right, I'll see you back here in about 10 minutes or so, okay? Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. The note that was sent to the court by one of the jurors reads as follows. After this witness, I am sorry. However, I need to ask for a break. Thank you. 5 to 10 minutes. And we'll mark it as a court trial exhibit. What's the next court trial exhibit number? Okay, we'll mark it as C-TR-117. All right, let's take a 10-minute break. I'll see you back here after the break. Thank you. The court will be in recess.
Please rise.